With it being another Friday, let's get to some questions from the listeners.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. You also can catch us on wherever you listen to podcasts. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners wondering how this channel works, I bring you episodes Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes in length. And we also have the Locked On Royals postcast, which is hosted by Chance Lebo, and he goes to you live for about 15 to 20 minutes at the conclusion of all of the Royals games. Before we get started, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. Enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the U.S. Visit 5hewin.com for the full rules and entry. No purchase necessary, excludes the Masters tournament, and it ends on Halloween, October 31st, 2025. If you ever want to be involved in this show, especially a Mailbag Friday, leave your questions on a video throughout the week. That can be over on YouTube, and you can always look for my tweet that I put out there every Thursday night so we can make sure that we answer your question. If I don't get to it in this episode, you can always follow back up, respond below to this video, and I'll have it answered by the end of the weekend. Let's kick things off with Spoons' question. With Lugo being a former reliever and the only time he's pitched more than 102 innings in his career was 2023, 24, and 25, are we really surprised by a late revival in his career and having a bad second half in the past 2 years? I wouldn't say that I'm floored just because he was a reliever turned starter. But when you think about it, it should be able to help his endurance. It should be able to help his health long term because he didn't have as many innings in the early parts of his career. His arm still has a lot more innings left to give, but there is going to be some, I wouldn't say growing pains, but a transition period where you've gone from somebody who threw 60 to 70 innings a year to now you're being counted on to throw 180 to 200. I will say that maybe for next year, the Royals can handle him a little bit different in the first half, where maybe instead of asking 7 innings out of him, if he gives you 5 solid innings, 70, 75 pitches, maybe you pull him so you make sure that this period doesn't happen again. Because last year was kind of the same thing. From July to the end of August, he had multiple starts where he gave up 6 runs, 8 runs. He did have a really good start of 8 innings, a 1-run ball against the Tigers in there. But last year, around this same time, he went through a rough patch, and then he responded very well in September. So maybe to avoid that next year, you don't overwork him as much in the first half of the season. This one comes from Parker. What would be your thoughts on a Seth Lugo 10-day IL stint and Kolek coming up? Also, I don't understand all this Jack hate. He is an awesome prospect and who has an amazing future. Can you help me understand where people come from when they say that? I would say for Lugo, we touched on it a little bit in yesterday's episode. I wouldn't want to see any more starters go on the IL, especially not a guy like Seth Lugo. If you need to skip him for a start, I can understand that, but you need him available the rest of the way. I would much rather Kolek come up and someone in that bullpen gets sent back down, or you go with a 6-man rotation, or you just wait till the September call-ups to have that extra spot. As for Caglione, it is unfortunate. I could probably call myself a guy that defends Jack Caglione more often than not. That can frustrate some people, but I'm just not willing to give up on a prospect after, half of a season, a rookie season, and especially one where he moves so quickly through the minor league system. But here's the thing in baseball. If you are somebody that is given a lot of expectation and you don't perform that well, the fan base is going to have some people that turn on you. It's just the way it goes, and it's always been that way. Bobby Witt Jr. had some people doubting him after his rookie season when he wasn't living up to the hype, but then it just took a little bit longer for him. For Jack Caglione, I'd imagine it'll just take a little bit longer, but for a 22-year-old, he's still got plenty of time to develop. It just doesn't help him that Nick Kurtz out there in Sacramento is doing what he's doing. Roman Anthony's doing what he's doing for Boston. So people just don't have as much patience, especially when you're trying to make the postseason. This one is coming from Wilson. What type of win makes you feel better about this team? 4-2 victory or an 8-5 victory? Not even close. I believe it's 4-2. If it was a 2-1 or 9-8, I'd probably still side with 2-1 because I like watching efficient pitching. I really get ticked off and bugged watching those 9-8 games because even though you have the offense, there's some sloppiness to it. A very clean 4-2 game, I absolutely love because you get a good start from the starter. 4 runs is kind of in that in between where you didn't score a lot, but you didn't get shut out or score 1 run. So I will take a 4-2 win any day over an 8-5 win. This one is coming from Christopher. What has happened to Bobby? Because last year at this time, his average was way higher than now. And also, is there some concern with his power? It's a fair question. What's great about Bobby Witt Jr. is this can be characterized as a down year or categorized as a down year. And he's still pacing to have a WAR that's over 7, one of the more valuable seasons in Royals history. Last year, though I still believe he can get back to that, it was an otherworldly type of year. I mean, you were talking about one of the greatest individual seasons of all time. I mean, defense electric, can steal 30 bases, can hit 30 home runs, can drive in over 100, can hit 330. Those don't just come out of nowhere, right? Or I guess I should take that back. They do come out of nowhere. I don't know where I was going with that. But, Bobby Witt Jr. could still have a 290 season this year, a WAR over 7, and you say, well, it was a down year. It's still an exceptional year, and I believe he's going to win an MVP, if not multiple. But this can also just be one of those years where he took a few steps back. But I don't believe there is anything really wrong with his numbers this year. It just got magnified a little bit because the offense struggled so much in the first half, and he was one of those guys struggling as well. But I don't believe it's any cause for concern. This one is coming from Logan. How worrisome is the fragility of the rotation top to bottom? I believe the Royals should at least entertain trading for a middle of the rotation arm this offseason and put Bubic in the pen due to injury. Thoughts on that? Well, they did make 2 trades that brought in 3 pitchers. We're going to have to come to an agreement that Cole Reagans is going to be back next year. Lugo's back. Walker's back. Cameron's back. Burgert will be there. Kolek will be available. Bailey Falter will be there. And did I already say Chris Bubic? I can't quite recall. But all of those arms will be competing for starting spots. Alec Marsh is another one that we can throw in there as well. So I don't believe they need to make any trade for a middle of the order or middle of the order rotation guy because they already have that. I mean, you've got your frontline starters. I believe Burgert can be that middle of the rotation guy. I believe Stephen Kolek can be that as well. So if you're expecting any trade in the offseason, I would say it's very unlikely because they already have 9 guys that can compete for rotation spots next year. This one is going to be coming from Beeve. Do you agree Mailey should be given more lineup time and let Salvi just DH? I just don't get why Salvi is catching every day pretty much again. The reason he is because Freddie Fermin is gone, of course. Luke Mailey, even though he's been good in his very limited time, that's the exact reason. It needs to stay that way. He can't be somebody that's playing 4 times a week. At most, he needs to be playing twice a week. Salvador Perez can handle the catching responsibilities. Not to say he can't DH. I would like to see Mailey behind the plate for at least one of these games against Chicago. My guess would be Sunday because he's been catching Burgert. At least he was in the first 2 starts. But Salvi's just fine for the rest of the year. Now, next year, you're going to need to have a better plan in place than Salvador Perez catching 140 to 150 games. But I wouldn't expect to see Luke Mailey in there more than he is right now. He's pretty much a once-a-week catcher on the roster. This one's coming from KC United. What are your picks to meet in the World Series? I would want to lean Padres because I feel the Dodgers are starting to fall off a little bit. My pick on the National League side, though, is going to be Philadelphia. I feel that Philadelphia gets back there. The Mets are struggling too much right now. Philadelphia fell short last year, fell short the year before. I want to say that they are going to get back this year. As for the American League, it really is wide open. I like Toronto a lot. I like Seattle a lot. I'm not as high on the Yankees. So I'll go with Toronto and Philadelphia. I feel those will be my 2 picks when it's all said and done. Okay, let's get to one more here before we hit our first break of the day. This one's from J.A. Some fans say the Royals front office has such a unique, contrarian way of doing things that it's hard to tell if it's genius or just aimless tinkering. if that approach quietly turns engaged fans into apathetic ones, is there a point where being different stops being an asset? Fair question. What I would say is, baseball, there does need to be a good group of front office personnel guys that can make right moves to put your team in contention year after year. Like, that has to happen. You can't have a bunch of people out there that don't know what they're doing and they just constantly have good luck on their side and their baseball team's good. You have to have smart people in the business. But I also believe there's a lot of smart people out there that run teams that just aren't very good. It really has to have some luck in there. You have to almost have some of those dart throws where you give a free agent deal to somebody and it just transforms your team, or you scout an international prospect when they're 16 and they turn into a superstar, or you hit on somebody in the draft. But for the Royals, I wouldn't say they go against the grain by any means. I believe that they do a lot of similar things to other successful organizations. They still have their own ways of doing things, but I also believe it's drastically different than what we saw in the Dayton Moore era. Even though there's some influence still there, the Royals are far more aggressive and willing to spend money to keep this team competitive. And that's something, truthfully, in the Royals' existence, there just hasn't been a lot of. There's been those great years. We all remember 14 and 15, but we also remember the 29 years in between 85 and 14 of playoff appearances. They just weren't as consistent, and that seems to be the new way of doing things, where I don't believe that's going to be looked at in a negative way. If they're competitive year in and year out, you're going to become to appreciate more of what the front office is doing. Let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, still a lot of questions to get to next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can catch us on wherever you listen to your podcast. I want to tell you about 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime-flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. Golf is all about the good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best part of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down a bev cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the U.S. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament, and it ends on Halloween, October 31st, 2025. Next round of questions is going to be beginning with, looks like, Camaro, best player down the stretch for the Royals. Hard not to go with Bobby Witt Jr. He hasn't been the best player since the All-Star break for the Royals, but I would always count on him. He's the best player on this team, and I'm still waiting for him to hit that hot stretch. I predicted it when he finished second in All-Star voting to start behind Jacob Wilson. So I believe that we are still due for a ridiculously hot Bobby Witt Jr. stretch, and he can finish the season hitting over 300. This one's coming from Braden. Do you play MLB The Show, and do you have any favorite cards? I do play MLB The Show. I'm actually now on to College Football 26, so it has been a little bit since I've played MLB The Show. But for my favorite card, I really liked the Jack Caglione card in Diamond Dynasty. I also loved I think the Kevin McGonigal card as well. So some of those futures cards I love to cash in on. But I'm actually more of a franchise mode player than Diamond Dynasty. But I'll say those two picks this past season were my favorite to use. This one's coming from Jeff. If Cags finishes in top 3 of MVP next year, do we get an extra draft pick in 2027? Believe that would be the case. Yeah, because you didn't manipulate the service time. Same thing happened with Bobby Witt Jr. and finishing top 3 in MVP voting. So I believe you're right there, Jeff, that they would get an extra pick if he was top 3 in MVP voting. Freddie Patek Lives question, why do baseball analysts who should know better still talk about the Royals offense with runners in scoring position? It's a completely pointless stat. I wouldn't go as far to say that it is a completely pointless stat. I'm not sure if it's a sarcastic question you're asking or not, just because I can't tell off of Twitter. But still, the Royals were successful last year in that department. They were solid, with runner at third and less than 2 outs. They were great at driving in runs at second late in the game. But the Royals of late have just not been good. The offense has been better, but some of their top of the order guys are not coming through. Maikel Garcia has struggled of late, and Vinny Pasquantino has really struggled all season long in that area. So I would still say it is an important stat because if you go 6 for 10 with runners in scoring position in the game, you're probably going to win that game comfortably. This one is coming from Michael. Would you rather watch the Royals the rest of the season, or would you rather piss on an electric fence? Well, you know me doing this podcast, that even if they are a 100-loss team or they are a playoff team, I'm going to be watching them every single day. Not to say I can't get frustrated by it, but I would say that watching Royals baseball is still baseball, even if that game is incredibly frustrating. This one's from Brother Bill. Where does CAG slot into your 2026 Royals lineup? Depends on if they get a big bat in free agency, which I said last night I kind of feel they will because they missed out on it this past offseason and at the deadline. So I would say he'll hit 6th or 7th in the lineup next year. I'm guessing Garcia, Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, Jonathan India is probably back as well. I'd imagine Kyle Isbell will be too. So you're looking for a left fielder, and you're probably having Caglione as your right fielder / DH. So I'll go 6th or 7th in the Royals lineup for 2026. Royals rundowns question. Vinny is trying to do too much with the baseball when there's a runner on third and less than 2 outs. It can't be that hard to get a sac fly. I would agree that if you are as good of a hitter as Vinny Pasquantino, he's just got to be better in those spots. I will say, never being able to hit a big league fastball, sure, it is easier said than done to just get one in the air. I actually remember years ago watching this documentary that had Prince Fielder in it, and Prince Fielder was talking about people that would yell at him about bunting when they're all shifted over to the right side. And he's like, well, I would love to do that, but when they're throwing 95 inside, I can't just lay down a bunt perfectly to the left side. I'm paid to be here to drive in runs, to hit home runs, and me bunting a single plays right into their hands. Either it's going to be an out or you got a slow runner on first base. So for Vinny, not that sac flies are not important to him, because they are. He talked about it earlier this week that's his favorite at bat. It was his favorite at bat on Monday night where he had the sac fly in the first inning, or maybe it was Tuesday, instead of, the home run that he had, because it's just driving in a run, having a productive out, and he should be better in that spot, and he's got to be counted on to be better in that spot. He's the number 3 hitter on this team, and with Bobby Witt Jr. ahead of you and Maikel Garcia ahead of you, you have to be better in that spot. This one is coming from Dynasty Lethal Protector. Given the playoffs are a coin flip right now, do you think JJ will target an outfield bat this coming off season? Absolutely. Whether it be trade or free agency, I believe they're going to go big for that middle of the order bat, because it has eluded them the last offseason. It eluded them the offseason before that, and it eluded them in the last 2 deadlines. So I feel now that they have their pitching in order, they've got more arms, got more depth, bullpen seems to be just fine. They can really zero in on adding that middle of the order bat. This one's from Talus Master. All-time favorite Royals player nickname. I love the name for Joe Randa, the Joker. Was a phenomenal nickname. I loved Country Breakfast for Billy Butler, and that's always really been a runaway for me. So I would say that is number 1. And everybody else's nickname was kind of, Haas, Moose, Locaine, Salvi, but Country Breakfast was unbeatable. So I'll say Billy Butler's was my favorite nickname. This one's from Eli. What are the chances of signing Cody Bellinger this offseason? Yankees have Dominguez and Jones that need to play every day and will likely resign Grisham because he's cheaper than Bellinger. Given him slightly more than they offered Santander this offseason, or give him slightly more than they offered Santander this offseason. I don't know. I think that'd be a little bit too much for Cody Bellinger. Wouldn't be opposed to an addition like that, but if they're going to overpay for somebody, I would rather it be a player that's better than Cody Bellinger. If they can get it a little bit under what Santander was offered, then I would be for it. But if you're trying to get that middle of the order bat, somebody that can transform the lineup, truthfully, I feel it's got to be a little bit better than Cody Bellinger. This one is going to be coming from Bryce, and then we'll hit our final break. When Lorenzen returns, any chance Avila stays up? We're going to know here very, very shortly, some point in the afternoon. I just don't see it being anybody else unless someone's going on the shelf. Actually, I take that back. I made the same mistake in yesterday's episode. Lorenzen starts tomorrow, so they can keep Avila in the bullpen until tomorrow. So he might throw one more time. I would love to see him in the bullpen, and I wish there would be a way in September to keep him back up there, because to have a high 90 sinker with the curveball that he did. Joel Penfield, by the way, pointed it out on Twitter. He does great work for One Royal Way. His curveball had an absurd spin rate, almost 3,000 in yesterday's Major League debut. I want that in the bullpen. I want to see what he has, and I'm willing to cut bait with one of the guys in the bullpen to make room for him and also Stephen Kolek. Let's take our final break of the show. When we come back, we will wrap it up with our final set of questions next on Locked On Royals. You are tuning to Locked On Royals in the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. Want to tell you about Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch Money does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. The next question is going to be coming from John. Should Lugo go on the IL with a tired arm? I would say no. If it's just working through some stuff, you don't really need to put him on the injured list. If there is some fatigue, then maybe just skip a start. Maybe just throw Bailey Falter on the next day that Seth Lugo is due up and let him get some extra rest there. But I don't believe that they need to put him on the injured list unless they just wanted to skip him in the start, keep him out of there for 10 days. You bring up an extra arm like Stephen Kolek, and you could feel better about that decision. But since there wasn't any word from it yesterday, my guess is that he's not going on the injured list. Could be wrong, though, because sometimes that stuff can be very quiet until you get the official word. This one is coming from Supreme Ball Knower. How was dinner tonight, Jack? Always love these questions, truth be told. Anytime I get asked about favorite dipping sauces or favorite fast food places, I love to answer them. So last night, I actually smoked some stuff on the Traeger, smoked some meats. It's still too hot in Kansas City. I'm much more of a fan of smoking stuff on the Traeger during football season, which is right around the corner. In fact, it begins next week. But I love the fall weather, playoff baseball, football weather. I'm almost out there cooking all the time, whether it be the Traeger or the Blackstone. So I loved dinner last night. It still was way too humid, though. It's not as enjoyable when you're out there and mosquitoes and it's humid and you're sweating, and then you got to deal with the grill as well. But I did enjoy dinner last night. It was very good. This one's from Jerry. When Mark Canha and Cags are ready to be brought up, who do you think is sent down? Rave is obvious to me, but it would be Lofton, Tolbert, or something a little bit more surprising. Also, I think Lugo needs a couple weeks of arm rest. So we did talk about Lugo. Maybe you do skip him for a start. As for Cags and Canha, I don't see Canha coming back up. Whether he be DFA'd or just outright released, I don't see a spot for him in Kansas City for the rest of the year. As for Caglione, it might be today. I don't know if he's going to be activated later on this afternoon, but I would guess that John Rave will be the odd man out because Nick Lofton's a righty. Same thing for Tyler Tolbert. And you got an outfielder going down for an outfielder coming up. This one is going to be coming from Charles. Not giving up on the season. I'm prepared for the Tigers-esque run, but what do we need to do this offseason to ensure we're not a 500 team next year? You got to improve this offense in the way they improved it a little bit at the deadline. Little moves here and there, improve the depth. I did not think the Royals' depth was very good going into the offseason last year, and honestly, once they were done with this past offseason, I wasn't thrilled with their depth. So if you bring back Mike Yastrzemski, all the better. You bring back Adam Frazier, all the better. You need to make sure that with how much they move around that lineup, you've got solid depth there. And then I would add a few more pieces of the bullpen to make that a top 5 bullpen in all of baseball, because you shouldn't be asking this rotation to always work 6-7 innings. If you only need 5 or 6 out of them, try to recreate a little bit of that 2014 and 2015 magic where you just took a lot of pressure off that starting rotation. This one's from Jackie Moon. Will the Royals go 5-2? I'm guessing that's with the next 7 games. You've got the White Sox and you got the Rangers. I should say yes on that. If you sweep the White Sox, which they need to do, we've discussed that all week long, Then you just need to split with the Rangers. I think I can get on board with 5-2. That would put you 2 games over 500 going into that Tigers series. Aiden's question, how would you feel about a 6-year, $120 million deal for Michael, as I feel like his true overall value and his value for the Royals makes it pricey, and he can also get another big payday at age 31. That might be what Michael Garcia would be asking for. We did talk about extensions in yesterday's episode. I want to see one more year of Michael like this, and even if he does give you another year like he's done this year, it's not going to be an absurd asking price. I don't see Michael Garcia, if he hits 300 again, being able to ask for the moon, right? Being able to get into that 20 to 25 million a year range. But I need to get a little bit more sure of his overall output. I need to have that comfortability that year in and year out, he's going to be between 270 and 300. Because if he reverts back to what he was last year, I'm not going to like the idea of giving him that big of an extension. This question is coming from Marty. If you could sign Kyle Tucker, but the only way was to not pick up Salvi's option, do you do it? As much as I love Salvi, I would do that in a heartbeat. Kyle Tucker would be that middle of the order bat we've been talking about. And if that was the only thing you had to worry about doing, then yes, you would pay Kyle Tucker and not pick up that option for Salvador Perez. It would suck to see Salvador Perez playing another uniform, but if those are my options there, almost feels like a no-brainer that you would take on the big-time money that Kyle Tucker will be asking for. The Mizzler's question, would you bring back any free agents we acquired this year? Best wings in KC. Love the podcast. Thanks for the kind words, Brian. I would say the best wings, the peanut, the old school peanut as well. Those are unbeatable. Anytime somebody comes up here, I recommend it if you are in the mood for wings. And then for free agents to bring back, I wouldn't hate bringing back Yastrzemski and Adam Frazier. I feel those could be really 2 nice depth pieces to have off the bench. It's unlikely with Yaz. I see him going back to San Francisco. He really liked it there. Adam Frazier, though, I could absolutely see a world in which they can strike another 1-year deal with him. This one's from Craig. 2 questions. Number 1, if there was a war for managers, would Qs be negative? And number 2, why are the Royals not more aggressive on the base pass like they have been in previous years? Would rather be an out being aggressive instead of hitting into a double play. For Matt Quatrero, some people have said this before, that if you look at the Pythagorean theorem, like where your team is expected to be and then what your actual record is, maybe you could measure a manager's WAR that way. The Royals have a negative run differential and they're 500, so it'd be about even, maybe slightly in the positive direction. And then as for the second part of it, I honestly believe the Royals have been too aggressive to a fault, getting thrown out on the bases constantly, getting picked off. Yes, it's better to have that than to ground into a double play, but you also don't want to take for granted having base runners on, at a certain point in the game. If you're getting thrown out in the bases in the first, second, or third inning, so be it. If you're getting thrown out in a 1-run game in the 7th, 8th, or 9th, that I have a problem with. I like being aggressive, but you have to pick and choose times when you are being aggressive. And lastly, the final question is coming from N Slow-Mo Replay. Is this just a 500 team? They very well could be. And if you've listened to me long enough, I sound like a broken record in saying this. I'm a believer in run differential. If you are a negative run differential team and you were overperforming earlier on in the year, you're bound to regress. And the Royals are 60-61 with a negative run differential. Unless they just smoke Chicago this weekend and not only sweep them, but bludgeon them in all 3 games, it's going to stay in the negative department. And if they're 63-61 with a negative 8 run differential or negative 5 run differential, that still screams 500 to me. And that very well may be the case. What I will say is that at the end of the year, if they miss the postseason and they're 500, maybe it's because I've endured so many bad Royals years where I'm not going to look back on this year and say that was one of the most frustrating seasons of all time. I'll be disappointed because I thought this team was much better than 500. But if they, even go 82 and 80, or they go 84 and 78 and miss the playoffs by a couple of games, the Royals haven't had many back-to-back winning seasons. And I'm not going to champion a team that didn't make the postseason, but I'm just saying it wouldn't be as bad as it really seems when you look back 3 to 4 years from now. I mean, how do you look back on the 2013 Royals. They didn't make the postseason, but it was that start of what was to come in 14 and 15. I totally get it, though. When there's expectations, if you don't live up to them, people are going to be incredibly frustrated. And that's how it's been this year. But absolutely, they could just be a 500 team. They have this weekend to prove otherwise. You go out there and beat the brakes off Chicago, maybe people can start to believe that you are that playoff team rolling into that Rangers series. Okay, that'll do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, find the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll be off this weekend, but back on Monday, fully recap the White Sox series and look ahead to a pivotal showdown with the Texas Rangers. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.